About 83% of you guys are not subscribed. Subscribing, clicking that like button, and commenting all help me out a lot in doing what I really want to do. Thank you guys so much for all your support. What is going on, guys? Rogue TCG here bringing the Yu-Gi-Oh! TCG deck profile. You guys voted for it. I am responding. Here is Tearlament Paleozoic. This is a deck that has actually been doing quite good in the past couple of weeks. And I just thought I would talk about it and go over the deck list and just introduce it to y'all. So here's Tearlament Paleozoic. It's a little bit of a slower take on Tearlament, where we use our Paleozoics as an aqua to go into Kaleido Heart and to control the game, as well as we are able to mill them off of our Tearlaments. We are able to use Needlebug Nest with Transaction Rollback. Just a lot of really cool cards in this list. We can mill a lot with Vivid Tail paired with Kashtira Tearlament. So there is quite a lot we can do to control the game and get it under our control. So let's go through the card by card, and I'm going to tell you what this deck is trying to do. First off, we are on triple Tearlament Rhinoheart. If it's normal, or special, we can send a Tearlament from our deck to the grave, except for itself. And if this card is sent to the grave, except by card effect, you can special summon it by pitching a Tear. So very strong stuff. It is a level 4, so we can make Bahamut Shark with it, as well as with Tearlament Sheeran. So there is that. Actually, we cannot make Bahamut Shark with Tearlament Sheeran because I'm a big, fat, stinky liar. I am a liar. We just have to be making it with 2 Rhino Hearts or a Mud Dragon. No, but still, Rhino Heart's still really strong. Sending Kashtira just to mill some is pretty good, or sending whatever Tearlament we might need in that situation just to fuse into something is also very useful. So we are playing 3 of the Rhino Heart. Speaking of which, we're also on 3 Tearlament Kashtira, which is incredible because it can both mill cards and special summon itself to field, or mill cards when it itself is milled or sent to the graveyard. So really good for getting those extra value on the mills, especially paired with Vivid Tail. We are on 1 Tearlament Sheeran, being able to pitch a card from your hand, a creature card, in order to special itself out, and then mill 3 at the end of its effect. Really strong. And then all of these 3 Tearlaments right here, all the same secondary effect, or if they're sent to the graveyard for a card effect, you can shuffle this card and any number of cards from your hand, field, or graveyard in order to summon stuff, summon a fusion monster from your extra deck. That needs those cards shuffled back as material. And rather than shuffling back, it puts them to the bottom. So there's that. Tearlament Havness is a hand trap, or if your opponent activates a monster effect, you can special from your hand and then mill 3, and then also has that secondary effect. And then Tearlament Merly, when normal or special, mills 3. So those are all of our Tearlaments. Now onto our honorary Tearlament. We're on 1 Danger Nessie. It's an aqua monster, so we can make Kaleido Heart with it. It also triggers our Tearlaments if we discard it for the danger effect. We're also on 1 Mothman because it's a level 4, which is quite useful. Except it's not because we only run Bahamut Shark, so it would be useful if we were running Old Danger Tier. However, it's just mostly here because it triggers our Tearlaments by allowing us to draw and discard if we hit it. Then lastly, for monsters, we are on double Absolute King Backjack. During our opponent's turn, quick effect, we can banish this card from the graveyard, excavate the top card of our deck, and if it's a normal trap, we can send it to the field. Otherwise, we send it to the graveyard, and if we do choose to set it, it can be activated the turn we do set it. If this card is sent to the graveyard, we can look at the top 3 cards of our deck and place them on top in any order, which is really good for helping us stack our mills, especially if we have something like Tearlament Kashtira that only mills 2. We can stack the one we want to draw at the very bottom and then mill the top 2 if that is something that we wanted to be doing. So Backjack is really strong, especially for that first effect, in order to set a trap that we have stacked to the top onto the field in order to activate it that same turn. Next, we're on triple Tearlament Scream. If a monster is normal or special summon while we control a Tearlament, we can mill the top 3, and then our opponent's monsters lose 500 attack for the rest of the turn. Really strong stuff. And if Scream itself is sent to the graveyard for a card effect, we get to add a Tearlament trap card from our deck to our hand. We are on 1 Primeval Planet Perliano. When it's activated, we can add a Tearlament monster or Vsauce from deck to hand. Whenever fusions and Tearlaments we control gain 500 attack, and if a Tearlament monster or in our graveyard is shuffled into the deck or extra deck, we get to pop a card on field, which is quite strong, especially when we're going into the grind game. We are running 1 copy of Tearlament Grief, which is functionally Foolish Burial just for our Tearlaments. We're on triple copies of Tearlament Sulliek, allowing us to target an effect monster our opponent controls, negates effects, and then send a monster we control to the graveyard. And if Sulliek itself is sent to the graveyard by a card effect, we get to search our deck for a Tearlament monster, which is one of the best searching Tearlament cards that we have access to. Speaking of searching Tearlament cards, we're on 1 Trivi Karma. Target a Vsauce in our monster, and affect monster our opponent controls, negate that effect monster's effect, and if you do, the targeted monster gains attack with half the attack or defense of that monster. And the main effect we're going to be using it for is banishing it from our graveyard to add one spell or trap that mentions Vsauce Starfrost, which includes our primeval planet Perliano. So we are running just one of that because we are typically going to be milling it or sending it to the graveyard. And then lastly, for our Tearlament traps, we're on one Tearlament Meta Noise. If you control a Tearlament monster or a Vsauce, we get a target face-up monster your opponent controls, change it to face-down defense position, and then send a Tearlament monster from our deck to the graveyard. If this card's sent to the graveyard by card effect, we can target a Tearlament monster in our graveyard and add it to hand, but you can only use one Meta Noise effect per turn, only once per turn. Meta Noise is incredibly strong. Being able to flip down a card and then send a tier name in order to fusion summon right there on the spot is really strong, especially then flipping down face-up monsters is one of the best counters to the best deck right now. We are on double Paleozoic Canadia. Other lists are not running it, and apparently I'm only running one because I just cut one. So there's the second one. We are on double Paleozoic Canadia. It just allows us to flip a monster face down, and all the Paleos will have this secondary effect where once per chain when a trap card is activated while this card's in our graveyard, we can special summon as a normal monster. Aqua Water level 2, attack 1200, defense 0. It's not treated as a trap, and if summoned this way, this card is unaffected by monster effects and also banish it when it leaves the field. So, unfortunately, this does mean that we can't use them as fusion material for our Tearlaments, which is unfortunate. However, it does mean that we can use them for XEs and link materials and stuff of the like, as well as Canadia itself being an effect to Book of Moon. The reason why that's so strong is because, let's say you're against the best deck in the room. Snake Guy, Fire King. Your opponent normal summons Snake Guy Ash. They activate the effect to add something to hand. You activate Canadia. You flip that Ash face down. They add Poplar. They special the Poplar. They search a thing. They make Link Karibo. They put the Poplar back in the back row. They activate the thing. They get Oak. All you need is one effect failure or one more interaction. You negate that Oak. Their turn ends right there. They don't have the face-up Ash anymore, so they can't tribute the Ash to do anything. So that Ash is just sitting on board doing fuck all nothing. And then their Oak you just interacted with. So what are they really meant to do other than maybe go Promethean Princess, Amblo Whale with no Flamberge to back it up? As long as you can prevent them from hitting that Flamberge, that Flambussy, then you are Gucci gang. Speaking of preventing them from hitting that Flambussy, we are running triple Paleozoic Dynamicious, really good to just banish that Flambussy. Target one face-up card on the field, discard a card for effect, and if you do banish that card you initially targeted, and it has that Paleo floating effect, really strong because it triggers your Tearlaments, since the Tearlaments need to be sent to graveyard for card effect in order to trigger, and Dynamicious does do that. We're on triple copies of Paleozoic Morella, allowing us to send a trap from our deck to the graveyard, and as well as floating into a Paleo. Really strong stuff, especially since we can send stuff like Trivi Karma, Tearlament Sulliek. We can send Meta Noise in order to add a Tearlament from our graveyard. We can send Transaction Rollback. There's a lot of cards we are able to send, so really powerful stuff with Morella. And then we are on, lastly, one Olenoides, just to have a couple options. This just targets a spell and trap on the field and destroys it. For generic traps, we're on triple Destructive Daruma Karma Cannon, one Lost Wind, because it's a really good trap to mill. Triple Needlebug Nest in order to mill the top 5 cards of our deck. It's Kitkalos at home. We're on 2 Rise to Full Height in order to blank combat steps. Basically, how we do this is if it's in the graveyard, we can banish it, target a monster we control, and our opponents can only attack that monster for the rest of the turn. It doesn't matter if that card leaves the field. If that card leaves the field, they just can't attack past that. So it completely blanks a combat step, especially if we just put it on a Paleozoic that's in defense position. Typically means our opponents can't get past it. So we're on 2 of that. We're on 1 Transaction Rollback in order to copy our traps from graveyard. And lastly, we're on 1 Vivid Tail. It reads, target 1 card you control, return it to the hand. If this card's in your graveyard, you can target 1 face-up card you control, set this card, banish it when it leaves the field. If you do, return that face-up card to the hand, but for the rest of the turn, you cannot activate cards or effects of cards with the same name that card once it returned to the hand. You only use 1 Vivid Tail effect per turn and only once that turn. Thing is, Tearlament Kashtira is a quick effect, so this allows us to keep resetting that Tearlament Kashtira in order to keep using its effect over and over again, allowing us to mill a bunch. That's it for the main. Nice solid 43. There's probably a couple cards we can cut, like for example the Olenoides and maybe a Canadia. However, this is just my personal preference, so there is also that. Now onto our extra deck. We are on 1 Link Karibo. I know you can't see it because my character right over there. Just really strong with the backjack. We're on 1 IP Masquerena, 1 Barricade Board Blocker in order to discard cards from our hand, 1 Sprite Sprint in order to send our Tearlament Merly from deck to grave, 1 SP Little Knight, format Superstar, we kind of got to play it, 1 Dark the Dark Charmer Gloomy in order to steal Bell Stars away from our opponents. We're on 1 Paleozoic Opabinia, which works with all of our Paleos. It reads, it's unaffected by other monster effects, so you can activate Paleozoic trap cards from your hand. If this card is a trap card as material, you can attach 1 Xyz material from this card, add a Paleozoic trap card from your deck to your hand. You can use each effect of Opabinia once per turn. Really strong stuff, being unaffected just generally, which is really strong. Being able to activate trap cards is just really strong. And also, if you use the Paleos to make it, you can search 2 Paleo traps over the course of 2 turns, which is really quite good. We're on 1 Totally Awesome because these are level 2 aquas when they become monsters, so Totally Awesome is totally awesome. We're on 1 Bahamut Shark because we can make it with double Rhino Heart, so that is a possibility. We're on 1 Typhon Sky Crisis since we don't typically have anything except for Kaleido Heart that's above 3k naturally, so it doesn't really hurt us too much, and we can just slap it on top of a Paleozoic, which is really funny. And then for fusions, we're on 1 Mud Dragon, 1 Garura, 1 Dragostapelia, and 2 Kaleido Heart. We can make a lot of the fusions using a Super Poly. For our side deck, we're on double Phantasme. We're on a Bestial package of Baldrake, Druiswar, Magnemite. We're on 1 Mudora and 1 Keldo since we are planning on milling a lot, which is really good against putting that Princess back into their extra deck, as well as getting that Flamberge back into their deck for them. We're on a triple Ghost Sister and Spooky Dogwood. This is a bit of a slower deck, so the more time we are given, the better chance we have of winning, because our deck functionally grinds to infinity. So Spooky Dogwood just gives us a big fat life total pad that we can use over the course of 2 turns just to start getting set up. So it's really strong. And remember how we talked about life total pad? We do have our win condition and Scattershot. If we do go to time, we can send this to the graveyard with Sprite Sprint. I did mention the Super Polys, and then lastly, we do have Ghost Meets Girls, a masterful Mayakashi Shiranui saga, which is a fucking mouthful, but it is something we could potentially mill to the graveyard using, I don't know, something along the lines of a Paleozoic Morella in order to copy with transaction rollback during our opponent's turn to skip their turn. That is something we could do if we do know we are going first. But that is about it for this deck profile. Thank you guys so much for watching, if you guys still are, and I will be seeing you all later. Bye-bye! Thank you guys so much for watching the video. If you wanted to talk to more Yu-Gi-Oh! Players like yourself, I would highly recommend checking out our Discord server. Link is going to be in the description, as well as the QR code on screen. We do talk somewhat frequently about Yu-Gi-Oh! And the current meta, so I would really enjoy to see you there. As well as we do recently now have channel memberships available on our YouTube channel, where we have 3 different tiers. We have Super Supporter at $2 a month, where you get loyalty badges, emojis, guaranteed comment responses, a shout out at the end of every video, as well as access to the members only Discord channel, where you get early sneak peeks at future videos. There is the Giga Supporter at $5 a month, where you have early access to all new videos about a day or 2 before they go up, as well as all the previous offers. And for $15 a month, we do have our final tier, which is going to be Femboy Fanatic. You get a guaranteed customized video every single month, as well as 1 hour of my time. Could be for anything you'd like. You want a duel? Absolutely. You want me to help build a deck? Absolutely. You want to play some Helldivers? Sure. I'll do anything for an hour once a month. But supporting does help me out quite a lot, and it does help me produce all of these videos. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll be seeing y'all later. Bye-bye.